Ancient allergies. It all began when I was enjoying a bowl of homemade taco soup at a nice local restaurant and began experiencing immediate rhinitis and eye itching. Thinking that I had come into contact with an allergen, I took a Benadryl and left the restaurant. Once I arrived home, my allergic reaction had turned into full anaphylaxis, and I had difficulty breathing. My face was red and swollen, my throat was closing quickly, and I began to panic. An emergency room trip was necessary, and by the time I arrived, I was in deep anaphylactic shock and could not breathe. The nurse triaged me into the trauma room, not even stopping to ask me my name, started 2 IVs, called the respiratory technicians to give me breathing treatments, and administered epinephrine. I had all sorts of doctors and nurses at my bedside. Once I received the treatment, I became well fairly quickly. This was so frightening because I did not know what had caused the near-death reaction, but, as a nurse, I knew that due to the timing it had to have been something that I ingested. The next day, I returned to the restaurant and spoke directly with the chef, who was very helpful. He handed me individual baggies of the spices that he used in the taco soup, which I took to the allergist for skin testing. I had such a violent reaction to the cumin during the test that the allergist had to administer epinephrine in his office. He stated that he had never seen such a reaction to a spice. The allergist sent me to a research center in the hopes that they could figure out the severe reaction to cumin. After a week's worth of all sorts of poking and prodding, they could not determine what exactly was causing the reaction. They too had never seen anything like it. Over the next 6 years, I had some 5 anaphylactic reactions in different cities and from eating different foods that the waiters or chefs promised did not have cumin but that actually ended up containing it in the flora as one of the spices. This was verified after I had to be admitted to the emergency room. Truly, this was life-threatening, and even more troubling was the fact that cumin can be hidden in any prepared food or any type of spice. As a result, I began living on salad and ice cream. Meanwhile, I was so determined to do something to help myself that I contacted nutrition experts and allergists and emailed anyone and everyone that I could. I even thought that my anaphylaxis might be due to my breast implants, and I read volumes on the immune response to silicone. I had the implants removed, thinking it would be worth the chance if it helped. Unfortunately, shortly after I underwent surgery to have them removed, I experienced another anaphylactic reaction to food that, unbeknownst to the chef, contained cumin. Desperate for any type of alternative treatment, I turned on the television one day and saw Dr. Weiss as a guest speaker on the Oprah Winfrey Show. As he talked, for some strange reason my ears perked up and I listened. Something just spoke to me, and I looked up past life regression on the internet. I purchased 2 of Dr. Weiss's books and read more about this phenomenon. Another year or 2 went by, and I located a seminar in Chicago at which Dr. Weiss was going to speak. My daughter and I flew to Chicago, but after attending 3 past life regression sessions with Dr. Weiss, nothing happened. The last session at this seminar was Channeling with O'Brien. At the time, I did not even know what the word channeling meant, but as we had 2 hours before our plane left to fly home, we went to the session. My daughter was chosen to pose a question to O'Brien. When she inquired about my anaphylactic reactions to cumin, he replied, "Oh, I know, and she is also allergic to 2 other spices." My daughter asked how we could treat it, and O'Brien replied that I would need past life regression because I had been killed by this spice, unintentionally, in 2 past lives. I was shocked. I was able to locate a woman in Houston, Texas, who could help me work through a past life experience. In one former life, I was about 5 months pregnant and feeling very nauseated. My neighbor tried to help with my symptoms, offering me some spice and water. I remember that my dress was white, the bed was made of wood, and the house was a log cabin with dirt floors. It was probably sometime in the 19th century. I was in my early 20s, and we were the only 2 who were home at the time. The woman made a mistake and put too much cumin in the water to try to settle my stomach, and it resulted in my death. I felt so guilty that I had killed my baby inside me that I cried. The past life regressionist asked me to locate the baby's soul, but I could not. I realized then that I was not really pregnant, as I had thought. It was a tumor, but back in those days there were no tests to determine this, and because my abdomen was getting bigger, I had assumed I was pregnant. Once I knew that I was not responsible for ending the life of my baby and that indeed it was a tumor, I felt fine. I went back to the allergist for a follow-up skin test with cumin, and this time it was negative. Every single previous skin test had been positive. In fact, he had me get some Mexican food with cumin and eat it in his office while his nurse was personally assigned to observe me. There was no reaction. This was amazing, I felt like I had a life again. Indeed, discovering my past life gave me my present life back. Sandy, not being too familiar with cumin myself, I did some research after reading Cindy's story and learned that it is one of the oldest and most widespread spices. Although commonly used in chili powder and curry, it is, as Sandy knows all too well, found in a number of unexpected places: cheese, bread, liquor, medicine, and perfume. In South Asia, the tea made from cumin seeds is a traditional remedy for gastrointestinal problems and indigestion and morning sickness. Sandy in the 19th century, who believed herself to be pregnant and who suffered from stomach pain, was given cumin tea for exactly these reasons, but Sandy from the 21st century had no idea such practices even existed. Trust the process. Sandy did indeed need to remember a specific past life in order to cure her severe cumin allergy. She flew to Chicago, but the therapist who would eventually orchestrate the healing was in Houston, Texas. To get there, she had to turn on her television and find me on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Then she had to fly to Chicago, try 3 group regressions, coincidentally, drop into the channeling session later that weekend, and have her daughter picked to ask a question, which confirmed the past life causation. She went to Houston and learned the specific details. The life-threatening allergy disappeared, even to a direct challenge in the doctor's office. There is a wise, loving, and infinitely compassionate intelligence guiding all our lives, all the time. Our deep intuitive wisdom can access this process, can discern the direction, and can be in contact with the divine. In a past life memory that took place in Norway several hundred years ago, Margaret fell off a plow. She had never been there in her present life, but she knew it was Norway. She fell backward onto her upper shoulders and neck, at the place where they meet at the back of the head. Her shoulder and neck pain in this life, which was severe and disabling, had disappeared by the next day. Natalia remembered a past life as a child in Europe centuries ago, one in which she had to hide her psychic abilities, healing skills, and knowledge of herbs. Her family members were also forced to conceal their talents, for they would be killed if the authorities discovered them. Years later, as a young woman in that same life, she spoke out and was burned at the stake, confirming the dangers of going public at that time. In a connected past life, she was killed on the rack for being a witch, merely for healing with herbs. In her present life, Natalia's significant joint pain improved after these 2 memories. I received a message from an Australian woman telling me that she had been afflicted with severe arthritis in her hands for over a decade. She was resigned to living with the pain. After attending my workshop in Brisbane in 2011, she had no pain in her hands, nothing. The healing, she said, had been powerful and intense. Another person who had also attended the very same event in Brisbane wrote in with her own story of healing. As a Hindu, she had learned about reincarnation early on, however, she had never known that meditation and past life regression could actually heal. This woman had suffered from asthma since childhood and daily relied on her inhaler. A month after the workshop, she had recovered from this ongoing illness. Quieting the mind and opening the doors to the past can literally help us to breathe easier. People who remember past life memories or have spiritual experiences are often able to heal or to greatly ameliorate acute and chronic physical ailments, including arthritis, migraines, asthma, uncontrolled bleeding, severe pain, joint problems, and even ocular stroke. The people who have written the following 4 stories come from incredibly divergent backgrounds and cultures, yet their story. Soulmate. This is a part of Zindagi Ki Roshni consultancy. It has been established for those who have lost someone and for those who are very sad in their life. About 100 PDF books and 20 short audio books of this topic will be sent to those who join it. This data will be sent to their email or WhatsApp. If you want to join this organization, then please send WhatsApp message to this number.